Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. You're watching Updates at Noon with me, Azlani Adani. Another new COVID-19 cluster was detected as Malaysia confirmed 660 new infections yesterday, staying above the 500 mark of daily cases for the fourth day running. At his COVID-19 daily briefing telecast from his home, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said the bulk of the cases continue to be from Sabah with 429 infections or 65% infectivity rate. 4 new deaths were also recorded yesterday, bringing the death toll now to 167. Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham said the bulk of the cases continue to be from Sabah due to the increased COVID-19 screening activities which are being carried out in the state and with more samples producing results. Kedah, meanwhile, has the second highest number of cases with 113 cases. The Kencana cluster, the sole new cluster detected by the Health Ministry, included cases in Hulu Langat, Petaling, Klang and Gombak in Selangor, Cheras in Kuala Lumpur, as well as Johor Bahru, Batu Pahat and Pontian in Johor. The index case of the cluster was discovered through the screening of individuals who display symptoms of the disease. Following this, the individuals' close contacts were screened with another 16 cases detected.
Sehingga 14 Oktober 2020 jam 12 tengah hari, sejumlah 23 individu telah disaring, di mana 17 kes dikesan positif COVID-19, 4 individu negatif dan 2 individu masih menunggu keputusan.
Malaysia also discharged 233 patients, bringing the total of COVID-19 recoveries to 11,605 or at a rate of 66.2%. Active cases in the country now stands at 5,768 cases. Cumulatively, the country's total of cases since the outbreak began in January is 17,540. The number of people being treated at intensive care units has reached 108, an all-time high, with 35 patients requiring ventilator support. The Health DG also said that former COVID-19 patients are still at risk of being infected by the virus again if their body immunity levels decline after 3 months. As a preemptive measure to avoid this, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham once again advised individuals who have previously been diagnosed with COVID-19 to participate in an antibody neutralization research. He said the research conducted by a group from the Ministry of Health Institute of Medical Research (IMR) is vital to identify the immunity levels in blood of former patients. According to Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham, this can prevent former patients from being infected again by the virus.
Dalam kajian tersebut, tindakan antibody neutralisasi di kalangan pesakit COVID-19 di IMR akan dijalankan di IMR, dan maklumat ini akan diselidiki dan dikaji supaya kita dapat tahu darah yang kita ambil dan juga sejarah yang telah pesakit melalui pengalaman pesakit yang melalui rawatan dan sebagainya akan diselidiki, dan kita akan lihat kepada keberkesanan iaitu respon antibody dalam pesakit tersebut. Sama ada tempoh antibody ini akan kekal ataupun ada kemerosotan antibody selepas rawatan.
Additional information on the research can be obtained through the official Ministry of Health website. The Special Committee on COVID-19 Vaccine Supply Access Guarantee has been established to ensure that the vaccine can be obtained immediately, safely and perfectly when it is available. According to a statement by Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, the Special Committee will be co-chaired by him and Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Adham Baba. Khairi said the committee is to prepare the COVID-19 vaccine acquisition and distribution framework and plan after it is approved for use on Malaysians. Meanwhile, several subcommittees with specific job scopes would also be set up across ministries and agencies to facilitate and expedite the implementation of the plan. Khairi said among the job scopes are the selection of vaccine, communications, registration and approval, trade facilitation, finance, storage, logistics and transportation, as well as the distribution of the vaccine. He added that the formation of the special committee is vital to ensure adequate preparation before the vaccine is received. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the COVID-19 vaccine from China will probably be available by the end of the year. This after China agreed to prioritize Malaysia as a recipient of the vaccine after it has completed clinical trials. The government of Kedah has allocated 100,000 ringgit for special quarantine centres for prisoners or remanded persons released from the Alustar or Pokok Sena prisons. Those released are required to undergo the mandatory quarantine process due to the spread of COVID-19 cases linked to the Tembok cluster following close contact with detainees released from both the parties. Kedah Menteri Besar Muhammad Sanusi Mat Noor said the allocated funds were approved during the EXCO meeting. He said the state government has proposed for Institute Amnuddin Baki in Jitra to house ex-prisoners and remand detainees, as the institute has been gazetted as one of the quarantine stations to house Malaysians returning from abroad. He said the state government will determine the actual allocation requirements to operate quarantine stations and whether it is necessary to open other quarantine stations for inmates who have been released.
100 orang. Kita nak tengok di IAB tu, dia punya kapasiti yang masih kosong untuk kuarantin dia ada tinggal berapa.
He said this after chairing the weekly EXCO meeting in Wisma Darul Aman. Other gazetted quarantine centres are hotels in the state. Another school in Perak, Sekolah Kebangsaan Lekir Batu 8 in Setiawan, was closed following the detection of a positive COVID-19 case. This brings the total number of schools closed in the state up to 7. Perak EXCO Razman Zakaria in a statement said any schools found to have positive COVID-19 case must be closed for 7 days without needing to wait for a risk analysis by the Ministry of Health. Previously, 6 schools in the district of Larut, Matang and Selama were ordered to close after positive COVID-19 cases were discovered. Meanwhile, in Labuan, 2 more schools were given notices to close after there were students confirmed to be COVID-19 positive through close contact. The schools involved are SMK Pantai and SK Kerupang, which were closed for 7 days until 20th October. In both schools, the students were found positive after being screened by the Labuan Health Department. Meanwhile, 24 other primary and secondary schools in the district remain open as usual. People returning to Pahang from areas affected by the Conditional Movement Control Order CMCO are advised to practice proper physical distancing back at their hometowns. This is to avoid any possible infections to high-risk individuals such as the elderly, pregnant women and children. Secretary to the Government of Pahang, Datuk Seri Salahuddin Ishak, in a statement said they should also wear face masks, wash their hands frequently and use hand sanitizers. He also advised them to avoid crowded places such as feast, mosque, shopping centres and recreational centres to avoid possible spreading of COVID-19. This is due to the fact that many cases of COVID-19 are asymptomatic. Individuals from the CMCO affected districts are also encouraged to undergo lab screening tests at any private health facilities or Ministry of Health MOE facilities to detect whether or not they have the virus. All gatherings of over 100 people are not allowed in localities with positive cases. Furthermore, everyone is advised to adhere to the new norm and standard operating procedures. About 1,780 troops from the Malaysian Army, the Royal Malaysian Navy and Air Force were tasked with assisting roadblocks duties and vehicular patrols. ATM in a media statement informed that Ops Penawa also involved 396 personnel stationed in Selangor and 225 in the Federal Territories of Kuala Lumpur as well as Putrajaya. Over in Sabah, 165 personnel were mobilised in Tawau, Semporna, Tambunan, Keningau and Lahad Datu, while 73 more were deployed to Kedah. Meanwhile, through ATM Health Services, 12 officers and 60 medical practitioners with medical supplies from Hospital Medan will be sent to Hospital Tawau on 17th October. They are to assist the Ministry of Health in treating COVID-19 patients. 980 summonses were issued by the police against owners of heavy land vehicles through Ops Bersepadu Khas Kenderaan Perdagangan conducted nationwide in the first 6 months of this year. The summonses involve 149 operations and offences of carrying excessive load which endanger other road users. According to Deputy Director of Bukit Aman Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department, Superintendent Dr. Bakri Zainal Abidin, this number has decreased from last year.
Kerana isu khasnya kenderaan perdagangan yang membawa muatan berlebihan menggusarkan pengguna jalan raya lain. Sebab itu adanya viral-viral yang melahirkan kegusaran. Sebab itu kita mengambil tindakan bukan setakat viral yang telah pun disebutkan tadi. Tapi tindakan kita adalah secara berterusan, tidak memilih waktu dan juga ketika. Maknanya tindakan pengawasan ini dijalankan secara berterusan.
He said this at the end of Ops Bersepadu Khas Kenderaan Perdagangan at Jalan Gambang, Kuantan. The operation involved 15 officers and 55 personnel from the Royal Malaysia Police PDRM, Road Transport Department RTD, the National Drug Agency AADK and Pahang Forestry Department. World Bank approves $12 billion to finance COVID-19 vaccines. That and more coming up in our foreign segment. Thousands of Thai protesters marched on the Prime Minister's office to demand his resignation yesterday after scuffling with royalists opposed to the youth-led movement's calls for reform to the monarchy. Students activists have staged huge rallies recently calling for Premier Prayut Chan-o-cha, a former army chief who took power in a coup 6 years ago, to step down. But some protesters have also demanded reforms to the country's powerful monarchy, a move that has prompted a backlash from Thailand's staunchly pro-royalist establishment. Tensions flared near the capital's Democracy Monument ahead of a scheduled afternoon drive-by of a royal motorcade carrying King Maha Vajiralongkorn. Yellow-clad royalists arrived at the venue in numbers to rival the anti-government protesters, forcing police to erect barriers and roadblocks to keep them apart. More than 15,000 police were deployed. Organisers of the anti-government rally warned supporters not to provoke their opponents. Such overt challenges to the monarchy are unprecedented in Thailand, where the royal family's influence permeates every aspect of society. At least 16 people have been killed in incidents of wall and house collapses amid record rains in southern India. Indian media reports said the death included a 2-month-old infant. 9 people died in the city of Hyderabad after a perimeter wall collapsed and fell on a set of houses during heavy rains Tuesday night. 5 other people, including an old couple and their grandson, were killed when 2 other houses collapsed during the downpour in the city, while 2 other persons were swept away by flood waters. Daily life has been thrown out of gear across parts of Hyderabad as roads are flooded and vehicles washed away in several neighborhoods. Telangana, where Hyderabad is located, and neighbouring Andhra Pradesh states have witnessed heavy rains for the last 3 days caused by a deep depression in the Bay of Bengal. A total of 18 people have died in the region since Monday. Hyderabad received 25 centimetres of rain in the past 24 hours, the highest in over 20 years. Heavy rains and thunderstorms are expected in the region through Thursday. Authorities in Hyderabad declared a holiday on Wednesday and Thursday and asked residents to stay indoors. The World Bank has approved $12 billion in financing to help developing countries buy and distribute coronavirus vaccines, tests and treatments, aiming to support the vaccination of up to 1 billion people. It said the $12 billion envelope is part of a wider World Bank Group package of up to $160 billion to help developing countries fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The World Bank said its COVID-19 emergency response programs are already reaching 111 countries. The International Finance Corporation, the private sector lending arm of the World Bank, is investing in vaccine manufacturers through a $4 billion global health platform. The World Bank said researchers are working on developing more than 170 potential COVID-19 vaccines. Development and deployment of such preventive vaccine is crucial to helping stem outbreaks of the coronavirus that has killed more than 1 million people and sickened more than 38 million, while devastating economies and leaving many millions jobless. The world's richest countries have locked up most of the world's potential vaccine supply through 2021, raising worries that poor and vulnerable communities will not be able to get the shots. Lebanon and Israel, still technically at war, held unprecedented talks under UN and US auspices on Wednesday to settle a maritime border dispute and clear the way for oil and gas exploration within a reasonable time. In a joint statement afterwards, the United States and the United Nations said the talks had been productive and that the delegates had reaffirmed their commitment to continue negotiations later this month. Following years of US shuttle diplomacy, Lebanon and Israel this month said they had agreed to begin UN-brokered negotiations in what Washington hailed as a historic agreement. The talks lasted for around 1 hour and came weeks after Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates became the first Arab states to establish relations with Israel since Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994. This has prompted the suspicions that the flurry of US-sponsored diplomacy relating to Israel is meant to boost President Donald Trump in his re-election campaign. A second round of negotiations will be held on 28 October. The Nakura talks, which focus exclusively on the disputed sea frontier, came at a sensitive time as Lebanon, battered by multiple crises, hopes to continue exploring for oil and gas in a part of the Mediterranean also claimed by Israel. Coming up in sports, honors even after thrilling draw between Italy and Netherlands. All national hockey squad players are allowed to continue their training sessions as normal at the National Hockey Stadium, Bukit Jalil, during the Conditional Movement Control Order (CMCO). However, Malaysian Hockey Confederation MHC National Team Management Committee Chairman Dato' Ahmad Najmi Abdul Razak stressed that all players from the national men's squad and the men and women's 2016 Special Project Squad must comply with the standard operating procedure set by the National Sports Council, NSC, and MHC. All the players involved must stay at the NSC hostel, and those athletes who did not put up at the hostel would be barred altogether from participating in training sessions together with their other teammates. Dato' Ahmad Najmi, through a statement, said NSC had represented the MHC to get the green light from the National Security Council (MKN) to continue the training session on the field and also gymnasium during the CMCO. All must comply with every guideline and directive issued by the NSC. He said the NSC have also decided that during the duration of the training, athletes and coaches are not allowed to interact or have any contact with any individuals outside to ensure their safety is at the optimum level, and it also includes no media coverage during the period. Dato' Ahmad Najmi also reminded the players and the coaching lineup to always be aware and to take seriously the condition of their bodies and to inform NSC or MHC if they experience any signs indicating COVID-19. Malaysian touring car driver Mitchell Chia is vying to score a positive result in the fifth round of the 2020 ADAC-TCR Germany Touring Car Championship at the Red Bull Ring Circuit in Austria this weekend. The 21-year-old, who will be replacement driver for Austrian Nicolas Gruber, said he is eager to do his best as he had previously clinched podium finish by coming in second behind reigning champion Harald Prozek of Austria in the first of two races at the same circuit last season.
The moment I got the call from the team, and he told me that he had very good news for me, and he told me that it was going to be a drive this coming week. There was a smile on my face immediately. Also, big thanks to KBS, SIC, MKN, KDN, and KKM for supporting me and pushing, even though it was very last minute, for me to be able to fly out from Malaysia.
Chia told this to reporters before leaving for Austria at the KL International Airport, KLIA. Gruber could not feature in the race as he will replace Dutchman Nicky Katsberg for the FIA World Tour Car Racing at the Hungaroring racetrack in Hungary this weekend. Gruber is currently in 7th spot in the Drivers' Championship standings with 39 points after 4 rounds of races. Italy extended their unbeaten run to 19 games with a 1-1 draw at home to the Netherlands early this morning, although they were knocked off the top of their Nations League group in the process. Lorenzo Pellegrini put Italy ahead in the 16th minute of an entertaining game, but Donny van de Beek level 9 minutes later as the Dutch ended a run of 3 games without scoring. The match was staged in Bergamo, where Italy last played in 2006 as a tribute to the northern city, which was at the epicenter of this year's coronavirus outbreak in Italy. The hosts, who have won 14 games and drawn 5 since their defeat in Portugal in September 2018, went ahead with their first real attack. Nicolo Barella's diagonal crossfield pass found Pellegrini, who collected the ball in his stride and clipped his shot past Jasper Cillessen. But just as Italy seemed to be getting on top, the Dutch equalized. Frankie de Jong broke down the left and crossed Memphis Depay's shot was blocked, and Donny van de Beek reacted quickly to fire the rebound into the top of the net. The game could have gone either way in an end-to-end second half, but neither side could put the finishing touch to their approach work. Italy, with 6 points from 4 games, were overtaken at the top of League A Group 1 by Poland, who beat Bosnia 3-0 and have 7. The Dutch are third with 5. Plans from Liverpool and Manchester United to radically reform England's top flight of football have been unanimously rejected by all 20 Premier League clubs. The project, a big picture plans which would have resulted in the biggest shake-up of English football in a generation, aim to reduce the number of teams in the Premier League from 20 to 18, with the majority of power put in the hands of the biggest clubs. Premier League clubs have now said they will work together on a strategic plan to find a new way forward for English football after the project was rejected. The English Football League, which is made up of 3 divisions below the Premier League, confirmed the majority of its clubs supported the idea of Project Big Picture. The plans promise lower league clubs, which have been starved of income by the coronavirus pandemic, an immediate £250 million rescue package and a 25% cut of future Premier League media revenues. The Premier League has said it will still make a rescue package available to League 1 and League 2 clubs to ensure they do not go out of business as a result of the outbreak. The top flight said in a statement that this offer will consist of grants and interest-free loans totaling a further £50 million on top of £27.2 million solidarity payments already advanced to League 1 and League 2 this year, making it a total of £77.2 million. It added that discussion will also continue with the EFL regarding Championship clubs' financial needs. Frenchman Arnaud Demar's prolific Giro d'Italia continued as he claimed his 4-stage victory in this year's race after a bunch sprint at the end of stage 11 in Rimini on Wednesday. Triple world champion Peter Sagan of Bora Hansgrohe was in the mix again after his win on Tuesday, but the 29-year-old Groupama FDJ rider edged out the Slovakian, who had to be content with second place. Alvaro Hodek of a Deceuninck Quickstep was third. All the GC contenders finished safely, with João Almeida, Deceuninck Quickstep, retaining his 34-second lead over Wilco Kelderman of Sunweb team, and Pello Bilbao for Bahrain McLaren still third at 43 seconds. It had looked for a while as though Belgium's Sander Army might hang on for a victory after he and Matej Baez, part of an initial 6-man breakaway, attacked with just over 30 kilometers remaining and built a 2-minute lead as the main group was slow to organize itself to chase them down. With 10 kilometers remaining, Army of Lotto Soudal still had a minute on the peloton, but he was quickly swallowed up on the flat and fast run into the Italian seaside town. After Army was caught with 6 kilometers remaining, the UAE team Team Emirates rider took up the pace in the twisty final kilometres, and Fernando Gaviria was the first to attack, but De Mare powered through to claim victory. De Mare still leads Sagan in the points classification. Thursday 204km stage starts and finishes in Cesenatico and features a succession of tough climbs.
With the MERS 999 application system, getting emergency assistance is now easier. Save Me 999 Police connects the Malaysian public to the police. Save Me 999 Deaf for those with hearing or speech impairments. And Save Me 999 Blind for those with visual impairments. Download now for free on your smartphones. MERS 999 and applications make emergency calls easier.
Sebentar ku pulang, cari rezeki sebentar untuk aku bawa pulang. Untuk keluarga aku sayang sanggup biar ku tak makan. Janji terasa senang walaupun banyak yang kurang. Asal ku rasa tenang, sebentar ku pulang. Cari rezeki sebentar untuk aku bawa pulang.
That concludes today's edition of Updates at Noon. In our top story, immunity study on ex-COVID-19 patients important to see how long antibodies can last. Tune in to News at 10 coming up at 10 p.m. on Saluran Berita RTM on My Free Views channel 123. You can also stream the news by surfing RTM's My Click. Thank you. I'm Azlan Yadani. Stay tuned to TV2 and goodbye for now.